A crop lease agreement establishes the relationship between one or more crop owner-operators. A lease agreement is assigned to each of your individual crop production center details. We're going to go through the different types of lease agreements and how to create those. So we're going to go to Setup, Profit Production Centers, and Crop Leases. Prior to creating your crop leases, you will have wanted to create your list of your crop owner-operators, which are the individuals that are your landlords or companies that are in CenterPoint. So we're going to go to crop leases, and we have some existing leases on our list already. We're going to go through those first, and then we'll create a new one. So we're going to look at CenterPoint Grain, and each lease agreement will have an abbreviation and a name and an ownership type. The ownership types are either owned, cash rent, or shared. On the ownership type of owned, those will usually be your CenterPoint companies. So your CenterPoint company is often going to be an owner and an operator, and any owner name that's selected here would get transaction information because it's a company. So when you put in your new production, those entries are going to go in as a transaction. If you're maintaining inventory on that particular production, that would increase inventory. You can have as many owners here as you want. So if you had two different companies in your database that actually are part of this particular lease agreement, then you could certainly put another. So we do have another company in our database, which is CenterPoint Orchard. So each one of these could have 50% or whatever ratio that you wanted on this particular lease agreement, if that were the case. And then each company would get 50% of whatever production came in to a crop production center detail that had this lease agreement. We're going to cancel that. We're going to leave that one at 100%. Now we have another lease agreement, which is one of our landlords. And another ownership type is shared. Shared means that in this lease agreement, the owner or the operator is getting a portion of the production and the owner is getting a portion of the production. And that ratio is identified over on the right-hand side. So here we've identified that the operator is going to get 60% of the production and the owner is going to get 40%. In the operators, you can have as many operators as you need. So in this case, the operator is our CenterPoint Farm. The CenterPoint Farm is cash rent, is sharing the production with Henry Landlord. So in the operator, we're going to leave that at 100% because there's only one operator. And down in the bottom under the owner, there's only one owner, so Henry Landlord would get 100%. In a little bit, we're going to make one where we're using more than one owner and how that works. But if we had a production of 10,000 bushels, then CenterPoint Farm would get 6,000 bushels, and that would go in as a transaction activity and be in our production center detail as a transaction production. Henry Landlord would get 4,000 bushel. That would not make a transaction if we were maintaining inventory. That would not go into inventory, but it would be in our crop production center detail under calculated production. So it's still part of that total production for the production center detail that this lease agreement is assigned to. So we're going to go ahead and save that. And now we have a lakeside orchard, which has a landlord, Sam Meyer. So this is for one of our orchards, and CenterPoint Orchard is operating that particular area, and 100% of that. The information over on the right, the total rent, you can put what your rent is over there for your information, but it's not really going to be used in any transaction activity in CenterPoint. And then we identify who the owner is down at the bottom, which in this case was Sam Myers, and again at 100%. In the case of cash rent, all of the production is going to go to the operator because the operator is paying cash rent to the owner. The owner would not get anything in the crop production center detail where it has calculated production, that would have nothing there. All of it's going to go into transaction production. So that's the difference between shared and cash rent. Cash rent will get no production, only cash rent. Shared gets part of the production. Now we're going to make a new lease agreement, and we have, let's say that we have some ground that Henry landlord is owning with his brother Ted. So we're going to call this one Ted Henry, and we'll identify the name as such. And this is going to be a shared. The operator, again, is CenterPoint Farm at 100%. And again, if we have more than one operator, maybe you have two brothers that are working together and they would share, then you would have each one of these at 50%. Over on our right, we're going to identify the ratio, and the operator's percent, we're going to say again is 60 for the operator and 40 for the owner. Now in the owners, we're going to identify the owners, which we have Henry landlord, and in this case, Henry's going to get 50%, and our other owner operator is Ted. So our owner, Ted and Henry, are going to share. So each of them have 50%. So if we use our example again of 10,000 bushel, the CenterPoint Farm would be getting 6,000 bushel, and Ted and Henry are going to get 4,000, but they split it 50-50. So Henry would get 2,000, Ted would get 2,000. In our crop production center detail, with the crop lease agreement of Ted and Henry landlord, again, the transaction production would show 6,000. The calculated production would show 4,000, the combination of Henry and Ted. But with this lease agreement, you can do reports for each one of your owner operators so that Ted would be showing 2,000 and Henry would be showing 2,000. I'll show you a quick report of where this information can be available for you under crop production detail and crop production by owner operator. And if we do this for the year of 2018 and preview, our information is broken out by each one of our different owner operators that we have. And here is an example of Henry landlord, where it identifies his share of the production, which was $27.84 at 40%. And on the under CenterPoint Farm, who is the operator, and Henry is identified as 60% with 4,176. And we could also turn on a column of the total production, Q1 actual, and refresh that. And then that would show you the total production for that particular ground. That was the new production that came in. So each one of them in this case would show the 6960 both on Henry and CenterPoint Farm. So if you were to filter for one of your landlords, this would be a report that you could give them on the production on the different lease agreements that they have and that they are part of in your operation. And next we will be working with your crop production center details and assigning these crop leases to the different crop production center details.